Welcome, everyone, to this week's Life Conversations with a Twist. I have Donna Piper on. We actually are connected through our podcast team. We were just chatting about how it has been such a great thing to have when you're a podcaster, is not having to deal with the editing and stuff. And we have the same team, and they connected us and said, you guys need to talk. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation today. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, and I love that our team connects people because just with you before, I feel like, oh my gosh, I have such a fun conversation. You're
Yeah.
so awesome. And I appreciate your perspective of how you're putting things out in the world to have a different sort of glimpse into people's lives and like maybe what the cause is. Or where they're coming from. So it's
Yeah.
really great. So
Yeah,
thank you so much,
it's gonna be
Heather.
a great combo for a Friday afternoon. So tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you live, and then we're just gonna dive right in.
Okay, so my name is Donna Piper. I am living right now in Newport Beach, California. I'm married, I don't have any kids, and I have all these chronic illnesses, which I'm sure we'll break down, but basically I have something called lipedema, mast cell activation syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome. I can't say the first name. It's ME. It's really long. It's hard to pronounce until I go on YouTube and like have them pronounce it for me. I also have POTS and I also have hypermobility EDS. So basically what that is that most of them are linked by connective tissue disorders
Mhm.
and lymphatic issues. So chicken and the egg with those. But lipedema, especially, and how I learned I have all the other ones is when I finally got diagnosed with lipedema, which is a fat disorder. It mainly affects women, and it is now worldwide, they're looking at like 1 in 9 women have it and are affected by it.
So did you
Not
have you had this your whole life?
Yes, it's mainly genetic. They think they're not totally sure, but there is a genetic component to it. And it comes with not only just the fat and how it looks more deformed, and I could tell you all of it now or later, whatever you'd like me to do. But it also, as it progresses, there's a lot of pain, and eventually it could affect your mobility. And most of the time it does because how it changes the shape of your body, but also getting up and trying to move. A lot of women don't are either misdiagnosed with obesity
Mm.
and it's not, and it's not a lifestyle issue. It's not like you can diet and exercise your way down. It is not affected by those things directly. It's mainly a surgical intervention that you need to have in order. So it's liposuction basically, but a certain way you do it. There's usually 3 to 5 surgeries or more that you have to take out the diseased fat tissue. So I've been in the health and wellness industry my whole life. I was a Pilates instructor. I was a dance movement psychotherapist. I was a dancer. I've always been into health, nutrition, like what's going on. I've probably done every cleanse known to man and every trend, but and I was really doing it, I think, because my body wasn't changing. Like, why was I still heavy? Like, why were my legs still fat? Like, what is going on? Like, everyone else is like, oh, I changed. I had 2 more glasses of water and I totally feel like a different person. Or I had some flax seeds and now I'm just like down 20 pounds. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I eat clean for decades. I do all the right things and my weight wasn't changing. So I was really focused on that. And then I had a few years ago, I went from like a 2.4 to a 10.12. I couldn't have eaten my way into that, but my body changed. It was swollen. So it took me about 2 years to find someone through my regular doctors. It was like, maybe it's blood cancer, maybe it's hormones. No, it's not, this and that. And then finally, I found a doctor that is a lymphedema and lipedema specialist in California, and she diagnosed me with lipedema. And then from there, I found out all these other things. I'm like, oh, that's why I was never able to lose weight because It's not affected by diet or exercise. I could starve myself, but the diseased fat that's there is not necessarily going to reduce. So,
So it wasn't something that like you were born with and your parents are like, you have this chronic disease and but it wasn't until recent, it was only a few years ago till you actually figured out what it was because you weren't able to lose the weight by
yes.
all the things that we're told to do to lose weight.
Exactly. And my mom, so sometimes it looks like your mom. So basically, so there's different stages and types, but lipedema is like if you had column like fat from your hips to it's usually in your thighs, but from the hips to the knees, it looks like columns. So it looks like more like sausages. And then when it goes to the lower leg, there's like cuffing. So your feet aren't swollen or your hands aren't. And then you could see with my arms, like this is all lipedema fat.
Wow. Huh.
So it's
And it's the part that we all love so much in our bodies.
yes,
You did all
right
the things to try
here.
and figure
Yeah.
out how
And
to
it's
get rid of
like there's muscle underneath, but this because I'm in a stage two. So there's different stages. Like, and you don't have to be overweight to have lipedema. It's more about how it's not cellulite, it's more like pea granule because it's fibrosis and diseased fat in there. So
Huh.
like, I don't know, like, but it's so mine's progressed to stage two. And so I have weight saddlebags, hips, like pants don't ever feel right, jeans, they tight in places where they shouldn't be
Mm,
and loose in other. So it's kind of that kind of body style. And it can get worse where you just get more and more volume, but
mm,
it doesn't, it's, it looks symmetrical-ish, but sometimes if you have different areas, but my lower half of my body is way different than my upper half. So my waist, especially when I was less weight, my waist and my upper body looked normal, and then my legs were much larger. So it's disproportionate. So it's not like you just eat and your whole body gets heavy. You
mm.
only get heavy in certain areas.
Is this something that's curable?
Only through surgery.
Mm,
And there's conservative treatments, and some people say they've reversed it. So I think mainly it depends on what treatments you have and how your body responds to it. But like for instance, in my case, I've done pretty much everything to reduce my weight, and really surgery is the only way I'm going to release the diseased fat. Mainly because I'm not as vain as I thought I was. It's more about, and I am, like I would love to be like put on pants or have something and not like have it fit or be cute. But it's really about the pain and the mobility issues because it's like you're in pain constantly. Your legs really feel like cement almost. It's hard to lift them and move them, especially as it progresses. And then it's hard to walk and move around. And it also, because where the fat accumulates, like between your knees and your thighs, if that's where you have it, then that grows in volume. So then then your feet kind of bow out to the outside. So that affects your gait. So because there's so much volume in between your structure, your legs have to, and your body compensates for that by
mm,
shifting how it looks, and then it like can wear out your knees and ankles. But basically a lot of women have a hard time standing or getting up and down as it progresses, and that's one of the main reasons why uh, I will be getting surgery in the January of 2026 is the first of three surgeries that I'm going to get.
you are. I was going to ask you if you were going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Because is there
I
anything that like helps with the pain?
Compression hose, compression wear. And that's a whole thing because so most doctors don't know about this, and my mom has a totally different body type than I do. She has teeny tiny little stick legs, and she has like a little tiny belly, mainly because she was pregnant. She was tiny, so it never went down. But everything else about her is like maybe she's like 110 pounds, like soaking wet. Like she's always been very tiny. I have had the exact opposite. So my dad was adopted and his parents, so I don't know really, but it's from his line because my mom's side doesn't look, they look more like my mom physically. So it is genetic and it's passed down, but people haven't even really known about this. I mean, I think 20, I think it was discovered, I think in the 20s or 40s, somewhere in there a while ago. But the issues are, oh, I feel tired, I have brain fog, I feel inflamed, I don't feel right, I have pain. And those were just kind of a lot of, unfortunately, symptoms like that, doctors kind of
Mm.
blow off. It's either, oh, you're dramatic, you're actually not doing what you say, you can't be eating healthy and look like this, you can't be working out and look like this, or it's hormones or something else, like it's midlife, whatever. It's always something that they don't really take seriously. Um, Germany just passed a law, or they did a study, and now lipedema is actually recognized as a diagnosis, and the surgery is recognized as an intervention. Here in the States, depending on your insurance, they don't even have a diagnosis for it. There's not an I code, those codes that you put in for diagnosis. Lipedema doesn't have its own. It's lymphedema, which is LYMPH, which is like when you have cancer or something, people know about the lymph and lymph nodes and that swelling. That's asymmetrical because of something, maybe surgery or something got damaged. And it's usually under that code. So it's really, most doctors don't know about it. They've never heard about it. And then most patients haven't. And so it's really more about advocacy. And that's really why I started a podcast, because I also have other ones that are complicating it. But 1 in 9 women worldwide have it. Like, it's huge. And I know if I knew about this when I was like 15, 16, 20s, my view of my body would be totally different.
Mm. I was going
I,
to ask you like how you view your body now. Like obviously this is something that it's not your fault. Like you've done the work to get rid of it, but now you know that it's not. Like how do you feel about your body now?
um, it's complicated because I still have like, oh God, I look disgusting. I still have that thing. Like, I'm not pretending like I think, oh, I have this disease. And so, you know, but how I viewed myself and like, why are my legs so fat? What won't go? There's still that like, wanting to be like, oh, maybe if I figure something out, it's still kind of that it's my fault. I must have done something. And for years of like knowing what I was doing physically, like teaching Pilates, I was running, I was lifting weights. I was, I went, I'm old, I'm 54. So I was like, health food stores were like a thing. There was no Whole Foods. You literally had to go to a store that said health food on it, had that weird smell in it. That's where I would shop. And, I always was trying to do something to feel healthy because I knew that, like, I knew my body wasn't responding, but I thought it was because it was something I was doing wrong.
Mm.
Like, literally, we are inundated with all these things about buy all this convenient junk food, but then buy all these supplements to make you look good. But if you just change this one thing, then you'll have like this perfect body and you'll have all this energy, and there's biohacking now. And, there's so many things. So I really was like, there must be something wrong with me because all of these things that anecdotally or even scientifically research has done, when I was ingesting them or doing that, it didn't change my body significantly. So, and, walking around, it's real. People probably don't want to think so in more of this culture of like, why would people do that? But going to the grocery store, like feeling people look in your cart and being, you just want to scream at them and like, no, I am, you know, I'm, it's not a lifestyle thing. I'm not lazy. It's not that this thing. It's like I have this disorder. I have this thing that is just even new to me. But, like when you're overweight, you get unconsciously, consciously, whatever, people have that like, oh, you're probably doing something to cause that,
Mm.
right? So then when you have a disorder that is seemingly looks like, okay, yeah, it's a lifestyle issue, but you know what you're doing, it's also, it creates a lot of shame for
Mm.
me. And then also, irritation, anger, and then wanting to scream, but then also wanting to think, well, maybe I'm not doing something. My doctors think that, I've given them a list of how I've exercised and what I eat, and they're still saying that so, like maybe I'm not doing what I think I'm doing. So then you start to gaslight your own self, like, oh, maybe I'm not doing it.
Mm.
But so this is really kind of like the life, like the body that I have does not fit normal, um, sort of connective tissue, collagen making bodies. Like my body and the women that have this kind of body for me and what I have genetically, it's not this, they're just two different blueprints. Like those things definitely work for like people that have normal collagen making and don't have connective tissue issues. When you do, you can't even like we're trying to fit how we like take care of ourselves in this other model because there's not a model out there for us to how to live our lives and how to benefit it. And each person is so unique and it's so under researched and underfunded. So there is a lot more communities now and there's a lot more people. So that's a good thing about podcasts and social media. And also having these doctors that have been doing these surgeries for the last 20 years. People like have trying to be like, no, I have this, these grassroots things to
Mhm.
kind of bring it more forward. And then now it's just like anything to bring it all the way forward. So people could get the medical care that they need and also the mental
Mhm.
thing of like, I'm not crazy. I didn't make these up. These symptoms are very real and they're brain fog and this weird inflammation and this pain. I'm just not making this up.
Mhm.
They're symptoms of these other things.
So it sounds like you went through this whole process to even find out that you have this disorder. If someone's listening to this and they are like, "Oh, this might be me," like what advice do you have for them to do they go to their regular doctor? Are there specialized doctors that just specialize in this? Like how do they go about that?
S- Um, well, right now there is going to be there's a community that is Lymphedema Simplified. And they actually, there's some teachers and some researchers, they wrote a textbook and then it is coming out at the end of September. And it's going to have a companion that comes with it. So if you suspect that you have it, you could bring it to your doctor. So that's one thing that's not out yet, but it's going to be on Amazon. So it's going to be available. So that's something that I didn't have and a lot of women didn't have. So at least there's going to be a resource that tells you about the disease and what it is. But for right now, go to your primary care physician, say that you suspect this, and ask if you could be referred to, it's either OT or PT, depending, so occupational therapy or your physical therapy, to see someone about lymphedema and lipedema. So they can refer you to one of those things and they can give you, because you would like to have um, total decongestive treatment. So what that does is that once you're in those sort of clinics, with whether it's OT or PT, they can get you in the system and assess you to see that they touch your legs, they feel your body, they do this to see if you have lipedema or if it's lymphedema or if it's something else. So that's a great place, and that will start to get you into your healthcare system so you can get compression hose and you can get maybe a pump and maybe see other specialists down the road. You can also go to vascular doctors to get checked. Um, and then if you now, when you Google, when I started even like 4 years ago looking for different symptoms, none of this popped up. I found my doctor, her name is Dr. Eicher in Santa Monica, because I went on it's called Stop Chasing Pain. His name is Dr. Perry Nickerson. He does a lot of the big six, this lymphatic stuff, because I'm like, there's something going on. I feel stuffed. So I'm like, let me learn about this. And one of his like 20 resources that he had was a nutrition for lymphedema and lipedema. So because I thought, I was like, oh, I think I have edema. I think it's a lymph. I was like, it's probably not this lipedema. I didn't even read that section of the book, but I looked at the doctors and I was like, you know what? I'm not getting anywhere. Let me just see where they are. Maybe they could do video consults. Maybe they can help me. And Dr. Eicher happened to be in Santa Monica, not far from where I was living in LA. And she diagnosed me with the one. She's like, yeah, you have the one that's kind of a bummer. It's harder to treat. There's really, yeah, you need to have surgery. Conservative treatments will help slow the progression, but once you gain this volume, it's really difficult and usually unlikely that it reduces, but you could stop your progression mostly. But they know if there's an estrogen component to it, because usually you gain these weights during puberty, menopause, and pregnancy.
Mm.
However, like in my case, I was told by all of my doctors that because of my age, it's probably menopause, but I didn't have all of my tests were negative. Like
Mm.
it's not, I still can get pregnant. All
Mm.
my things are in normal ranges. The other thing with lipedema too, when you get blood tests for inflammation, you could feel inflamed, but typically your inflammation markers seem normal.
Mm.
So it's very tricky. So it's really about you to educate your doctor. But if you ask for specific things like, I'd like to see if I have lipedema due to lymphedema, can you refer me to the PT that would handle that because I'd like some total decongestive treatment.
Hmm. It's because, I mean, you hear so many people are like, we go to our regular doctor and they don't know what to do, especially when it comes to women's health and like hormones and all the things. And so I think sometimes we all are like, well, we're going to go to the doctor and we know something's wrong with us and they just run tests and everything's fine, but we know it's not fine. And so thank you for sharing how they can navigate our lovely medical system. Because I get it. I mean, like, I think these doctors, most of them go and they learn the basics, but like now all of these, disorders are coming up and illnesses and cancers and things like that that might not necessarily have been back years ago when they went to school. So it's just very interesting.
Friends, I have such an exciting product that I need to share with you. Are you someone who hates washing their face at night? Yep, that's me. For years, I never wanted to wash my face. And finally, I found a product that actually gets me excited to wash my face every night, and that is Clear Stem. I have tried so many products over the years to find the one that I truly love, the one that makes my skin glow, the one that makes me feel good when I wash it, and the one that gets me excited to want to wash my face. I discovered Clear Stem through another podcaster, and I was like, I got to give this a try. I instantly became obsessed. Some of my favorite products are the hydrating cleanser, which I use every night. It smells delicious. It makes my skin feel so great. Once a week, I use their Vita Scrub, which is an exfoliating cleanser, and that just has these little micro beads in it that just make your face feel so beautiful. I can just feel them get into my pores and really give my face this huge glow. And then one of my other favorite products is the Hydra Berry mask. And once you wash your face, you put a layer of this on your skin and you go to sleep and you wake up and your face feels like butter. I get so many compliments on my skin now. I don't get a lot of breakouts anymore. My face feels nice and hydrated and bright, and it's all because of the Clear Stem product. What I love about them is that their products are all clean. They're good for your skin, they're good for your body, and they have so many different product lines based on the type of skin you have. So go down in the show notes, click on the link. I'm giving 15% off to anybody who uses my code, and I promise you, once you try this, you are going to be obsessed just as much I am. So again, go down to the show notes, click on the link, receive 15% off, and give Clear Stem a try. I promise you will not regret it.
I have a question for you, and you probably don't know this because I think obviously this disease is very new. And then I was going to bring up the shots. I know there's lots of different brands, but the weight loss shots that everybody's talking about and thinking that they need to do. Does that help lipedema? Are you not supposed to take it? Do we know how?
Yes. So they're doing a lot of US doctors that are surgeons that are board certified plastic surgeon that do this particular lipedema reduction surgery, because there's a definite way that you need to do it. Just going to your regular cosmetic doctor is not going to help, because you're looking for diseased fat to make sure you remove it when you're getting this reduction. So a lot of them have been trying trizepatide in a small microdose with maybe compounding with B6. They've seen that can help with inflammation and pain. Some, if you do have it, because you can have just lipedema, or you can have an obesity component and you can have lipedema. And a lot of times women don't know that they have lipedema because maybe they have been overweight, and then so they are on a Manjaro or something. So all the regular fat that responds to weight loss and diet and things like that will shrink down, even if they have bariatric surgeries. And then part of their body, they'll stop, and it will look more typical with like lipedema, because these areas will look like, okay, maybe I was overweight everywhere, and then now my legs they have a certain columnar look, they look like this, and they won't budge. And that's when they figure out that they have lipedema. So it's both. And if you have just straight lipedema, classically, they do, like, I've been trying trizepatide myself. No, yeah, trizepatide, to see if that was going to help with my pain, because I get a lot of pain and swelling and it's really uncomfortable. And I was like, fingers crossed, like any weight loss, awesome. Like, because I'm going to get surgery, but if there's something that comes along my path that I could like do this without, 100%, right? Like I would totally do that. But, and it has, I think, some of the areas that maybe had some normal fat in there, maybe I lost like 2 or 3 pounds total the last 6 months, but it's more about seeing if I can reduce the inflammation, because now they're doing more tests with all of these things. Like it helps like brain health, it helps cardiovascular health, so over the next several years, more and more companies are supposed to come out with these sort of GLP ones and variations to help other aspects. Right now, there's not one on the market, yes or no, that's totally for lipedema and addresses that one, just the trizepatide. And you could talk to your doctor about that as well. And typically it's the microdosing that helps with the inflammation.
Do you have to have a special diet? Like, is there certain foods that you feel bring on inflammation and pain?
Yes. So typically, there are women that just can do an anti-inflammatory diet, like a Mediterranean diet, something like that. But I was on one of those diets for 20 years, 30 years. That's what I would eat, like healthy avocado and healthy fats. I haven't had seed oils in decades. And, I did all of these things. And I found out that one of my things that I have, including lipedema, is mast cell activation syndrome, which is very complex. But basically, your mast cells are your first like responders. Like if you get cut, like in milliseconds, they go to help like make sure that nothing is going to get past there to give you an infection. So one of those things is histamine. So histamine actually aids in your immune system. So if you have too much histamine, some enzymes, you either don't have enough or you're blocking it somehow, and that's called a DAO enzyme. So in my case, even though I was eating all these healthy foods, they also, or a lot of them were either high histamine, or they released histamine, or they blocked that special DAO. So for decades, I was eating very healthy, and I was like, couldn't understand why. I was like getting gut pain, and I'd go to gut doctors, and they're like, oh, it's this or that, or maybe it's your thyroid, or we don't know, or take this supplement, do this cleanse. And it would be temporary relief, but then I would still like wake up in like abdominal pain. Then it got worse. Like I would eat something, and then no matter what it was, I would look 6 months pregnant by the end of the day. So there was all of these things that were going on. So my case is a little more special because I have all these triggers for food. So what has helped me reduce some of the pain in my stomach is a keto and more carnivore diet. I was a vegetarian for most of my life, but switched over to just really kind of figure out these autoimmune issues that I have because it's quite debilitating. Um, you just feel horrible and it changes day by day. You never know how much energy you're going to have and what you're going to do. So at some point, I was just like, I need to figure this out. So a lot of women have done really well with a keto diet that have lipedema for many reasons because it has so much protein and fiber to it. It's more sustainable than sometimes unless you really love bread, but gluten in general, most of the consensus is, and food is one of those tricky things that it's not everyone,
Yeah.
but in general, women with lipedema are advised to stay away from sugar and gluten. And in my case, soy too, and sometimes soy. But basically refined sugar, gluten. And those are kind of the normal things universally, right? That most people could, because it has to do with inflammation. So anything that's going to inflame you. And so we could talk a whole thing about gluten, but of all my sensitivities, I've had always gluten and soy show up and nothing else. And I'm sensitive to like pretty much everything, but nothing, the only things showed up on my test were those two consistently.
I know.
So just because it doesn't show up, because if when you're in a flare, like if I would go and get a blood test if I'm in a flare, then probably a lot of things would show up. But if I'm getting a blood test and not in a flare, then it's not going to show up on a blood test.
I can't even imagine the last couple years of your life, you like learning all about like I have no idea what any of like you said so many like foreign words and I'm like, I have no idea.
Sorry.
But I feel like as we are getting older, as women are getting older, I think we are having to be more aware of how we eat, what we eat, our hormones, all of these things. And it gets very daunting. Like, what diet do I do? I know I'm not supposed to drink, but I love to drink and I love my gluten, but it makes me feel like crap. And it's just like this like yo-yo that we have to go through. These men get to eat and drink whatever they want. And we're over here suffering.
I know it really is. It's so like complex, and definitely when you get older, there is more sensitivities to that, I think, because so in my case, and I think more there's a little bit of younger people getting more diagnosed in their 20s and 30s. But so if you've been eating and doing a certain way and your body hasn't had the support that it needs because you didn't know like what to do for decades, your body is smart, so it adjusts to everything. Its main goal is to stay alive, right? So it can do so many different things to keep you alive and working. So that means it might have to push things somewhere else and give energy somewhere else. And eventually that might turn into inflammation. So this could be going on for years. Your body's like, okay, we're working, we're overtime. How can we but she still needs to breathe. Her brain still needs to work. Our blood still needs to pump. What can we shift around as we're under attack? And what are we doing to help this? So those are kind of subtle over time. It's not like you're just like get, hit by something or break an arm and it's like little subtle changes and they don't really like pop up into your face of like, hey, you need to do something until you like have like a stomach ache or you drink something and then the next day you feel like crap and then that lasts for a few more days and you're like it was just like a half a glass of wine, what's going on, right? So then your body is just like something just needs a little extra support somewhere, and that's the hard thing because if you don't know where it needs support or what to do, then you just think that it could be a million other things, or sometimes it's too daunting to even like research and figure it out.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of conflicting information out there.
Okay, so you have lipedema, you have MCAS for short.
Yep.
You also mentioned POTS and you have chronic fatigue. Just
Yes.
talk a little bit about like how all of this really affects your day to day.
So, POTS is like blood pressure. It's not really pressure, it's mainly about the fluid in your body. But when you stand up, you could get lightheaded and have to lay down. Um,
And do you
and
think all of
then
this is stemmed from the lipedema? Like it all, like it has caused all these, or do you think they're all just different?
So lipedema is definitely hereditary. They all are. So is uh, hypermobility. So you can have hypermobility, you can have on a spectrum disorder, or you can have EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Basically, that lipedema is a connective tissue disorder. Also, it gives you the mast cell issue because that's also your body is like sending out stuff like you're not making things correctly, and we think there's all these foreign stuff in your body. So POTS has more to, and is also related to EDS and hyper mast cell. So those kind of lump together. The chronic fatigue is something that you have where your system isn't working well, like my lymph system wasn't working well, and my brain and my body aren't talking anymore, like my central nervous system. They just did a study in Edinburgh that came up like last month that really has proven that chronic fatigue syndrome is actually a disorder. It's not just something that like your doctors can't figure out what it is. You're tired all the time. There's no real reason. You're probably making it up, so they just dump it in chronic fatigue syndrome. They've proven that it's a brain issue. Somehow your brain isn't talking and doing what it needs to do anymore to the rest of your body. So that comes with a lot of like I'll just forget certain words. Like I used to be like pretty smart. I went to school. Got my master's in dance movement therapy. I wrote lots of papers. And now sometimes I just can't think of words. It feels like your brain's a little broken. And the fatigue is not just like, oh, I need to take a nap. It's like I could take nap after nap, but there's this like crushing fatigue that even just getting up to do dishes or standing for a few minutes overwhelms your just brain to think that you can even do that. Also, it has to do with your lymph actually working to get some of these. So the lymphatic system takes sort of it's kind of like a garbage disposal system, like anything your body doesn't need, it pulls out and then it tries to run through your body and you eliminate it through urine, defecation, sweat, or it'll go back in through into your blood vessels around your heart and get reused. So when that's not working right, it's more stagnant in your system. So then over time, your body is like doing all these things to help it out. And then it gets more and more stagnant because then there's more fluid to move out. And the fluid just turns into, it starts to kind of go from a liquid to more of a solid in certain places. That also happens with the lipedema. So there are lymphatic issues as well. And the lymph system is one of the systems that maybe doctors get 45 minutes. More people are talking about it now, but it's a system that they couldn't really see because they didn't have the technology to see it. So in like animals and cadavers, when they have passed away, it's was so light and it's right at the skin surface that it would like dissolve. So they couldn't see it like where they would open up and like, oh, there's a heart, there's a blood vessel. So now with technology and imaging and screening, they can see how it works more. So there's a lot more research done on the lymphatic system, but still all of these are kind of in their newer phases to get research money to actually find medical interventions, whether it's just manual stuff like massages or compression support or medications. And unfortunately, the truth is women make up a huge amount of the population, but if they don't get funded for research, and if they don't think that there's a pill or something that is actually going to take care of it that's profitable, they don't really have companies researching these things. That's the truth of the medications. So fortunately, there are some donors and there's been some studies here and there, like where they're allowed. And hopefully that'll get better with if more people know about these things, then they could talk to their providers or talk to their people to try to get some support. So all of these things that I have make it just difficult to think, to do research, and then just try to, and each one of them independently, they have their own protocol. So my food, when you talked about food, one says, do vegetarian diet. Well, I did that forever and that got me nowhere. Others are like, stay away from this or add like this one food, and that might be really high in histamine for me. So it's really overwhelming to kind of figure all this out. And they all have similar uh, symptoms, like hypermobility will give you headaches, it'll give you pain, it'll give you brain fog, and it'll make you tired because your body doesn't have the right support system to your skeleton. So even driving in a car, you could feel uncomfortable because you're the passenger, because your body's moving around. So your body's constantly trying to be stable. So that takes a lot of energy. With chronic fatigue, one of the things that cures or ways to treat it is to literally do nothing. Have someone shop for you, have someone clean your house, do all that stuff. Maybe take 4 hours of your day to do something. Look at the list of what you need to do and maybe only do 1 and 2 of those. It's really to rest is the only way to, what they figured out now is to help chronic fatigue. So that is a whole different mindset of like when you're trying to help yourself figure it out, to do in our culture, to do more. Like, how can I do more of that? Can I push through? So there's a huge learning curve, I know, for me to kind of figure out like how much, even taking a shower, I have this like little tracker thing that's called a visible armband for chronic fatigue, and people now do it for long COVID. And it's just like, oh gosh, washing the dishes took all this energy. It tells you how many pace points you should have and how, so I have like 10, and then it tracks how much energy you use by doing different activities throughout your day. So taking a shower is like 5. Like a lot of times, like most people, if they report, oh gosh, the only thing I could do today is take a shower, anything else that wipes me out, is because it takes a lot of energy. So to learn what takes a lot of your energy and how to prioritize that to your day. And the stigma that comes with that, people just think that you're lazy, or, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're just lazy. You just don't want to do it. Oh, you're procrastinating. There's all these negative connotations with rest and health and, even my own perception of what that means. So.
Well, that was before we started recording. I was saying sometimes, yes, I love when people tell their story because I think, one, it educates people, and it also like triggers somebody who might be, thinking they have something or they're going through that same thing, and they're like, hey, I'm not alone. There's somebody out there that I can connect to lean on. But really, like for me, having these stories and hearing these stories, it really puts in perspective life. Because sometimes, we get frustrated by the person that cuts us off, or we're frustrated because we have a headache, or kids are screaming at us, or whatever like life might throw at you, and you feel like your whole life is like horrible, or you had a bad day. But then I'm like, people are really going through so much more in their life, whether it's, chronic pain or illnesses or things that they can't control. Then I'm like, I just think that we all need to be just more appreciative of our life, and empathetic to what other people are going through. Like you had mentioned, like the person at the grocery store. Like, why are we judging what's in people's carts or what they look like? Because sometimes it's not really up to them, the way they look, or you think of somebody who got in a car accident and they're burned to death and they have these awful burn marks all over them. That's not their fault. And so just like going through life with a little empathy with the people you interact every day, I think is just such a great reminder.
Yes. And thank you for talking about this, because it is so much like, um, they're called invisible illnesses because, I may not present that I'm like in pain constantly, but I am. And a lot of times, because like, who wants to be Debbie Downer? Like, right? Like, if you meet me when we first got in the call, I'm like, oh my God, my hip just is killing me. And I have this, like, and as a person that has it, like, you don't want to talk about it all the time either. Because it's like when you talk with people, a lot of times, like I know I cancel a lot of things because I'm in pain, or you can't predict it, so you don't know when you're going to have a big flare day. So then you feel guilty and bad. So then you tend not to make plans because then you don't want to be the person that cancels. But then you also don't want to be again like, oh, I'm canceling because I'm in so much pain. So there's all of these social aspects to it too that really is like, you know, and what does pain, like if my legs are feeling really heavy and they're bloated, like how can I even relay that to you from a physical symptom, right? I'd have to tell you, and then I'd have to talk about it all the time. And even though obviously I love to talk about all this stuff, I don't have a shortage of words. But it's like when you also don't want to be a burden to someone because you feel like a burden anyway, because you're like, oh my God, I can't even do my own dishes. Like what was going on with me? Until you kind of figure that out and get a diagnosis or something and then get support, there are treatments. Like if you have chronic fatigue syndrome, I highly recommend a thing called the parent technique. You could just Google it. It's PERRIN. He did research for probably 20 or 30 years of his life work, and he's really been the forefront to help women with chronic fatigue syndrome. He also wrote a book about long COVID, if you have that. So there are researchers and people out there have been doing this, like, understanding these women. They would come and they would listen and they would try to be like, okay, let's figure this out. And then they would see other women kind of the same. So then now there's a little bit more surgeons and doctors, but really most of the population has never heard of it. And when you tell them that you can't lose weight by diet and exercise, people just like their brain shuts down. They're like, no. But that doesn't compute. We're told that you just diet and exercise and you lose weight. And when you tell people that it takes them a while to even understand it, and it takes yourself even a while to understand, like, what do you mean I can't control what my body does? Just like if you get cancer or anything else of like that, but any chronic illnesses, like you don't know that your body's doing all the stuff behind the scenes until you have all these symptoms.
It'll be a couple episodes before you. I had somebody talk about like body imaging and like how to love your body for what's given to you, your shape, your size, your color, whatever. And so if anyone's listening to this, go back. I don't know what episode it'll be before this, but it just talks about body image and how that we really, no matter what we've gone through or what we're going through or what we look like how we accept who we are as a person and in our body. So I just wanted to say that. I want to bring up a topic because, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I think it'll be a great conversation because I think a lot of people are struggling with this, and I'm seeing more change in this. When you go to a doctor, they're like, take this medication, take this medication, take this medication. And I think a lot of people now are leaning toward, and I know you do a lot of like spiritual stuff, movement. I'm sure you do some meditation and doing more of a holistic treatment for yourself. How does that play a part in what you're going through? And then also, does cannabis help in a lot of the stuff that you are going through?
So I definitely think there needs to be like this bridge between traditional allopathic medicine, because there is some medicines and things out there that are really helpful. Also, it's not going to change everything, right? So, and you need to also learn to like what your body can respond to and what it needs. And when you talked about body image, and acceptance is huge with anything, right? Like unless you want, if you can't really change if you're aware, unless you're aware, and then you have to accept certain things. And acceptance is, I think, is a lifelong practice. So there is that, like, how can I do these lifestyle changes that maybe I don't want to do? Because there is like a lot of anger and hate towards your own body. Like I'd be lying to say like, oh no, like I'm chill. Like I think I went into a lot of spiritual work because I was having such a hard time with my body, and that forgiveness is acceptance and forgiving myself for having these things. But there's still this human part of me like, no, I can figure it out. Or, maybe I did do this thing. And now with all this Like I was a trauma therapist. I did PTSD specifically for a long time. And I have all this education, but I can't figure my own stuff out. So then there's a lot of guilt and shame, like, well, then maybe, you know, why haven't I healed my trauma enough? So there is this relationship with medicine and holistic things that you need to find what works for you that's supportive. And I used to go from a feeling of like I need to fix it. Now I just need to find more support. So looking at more support. So if traditional medicine supports you enough to get you where you need to do the other things to support you, and then it doesn't have to be forever. You just have to figure out what works with you. And to cannabis, I haven't even ventured in there. I know a lot of people that do have pain, um, especially physical pain, has cannabis works and different things to that. I have some good friends that like that's what they do. She's a nurse. She helps people with all that stuff. I haven't tried any of that, mainly because I'm kind of an anomaly when it comes to anything. Like, usually, like the one thing that should work for people gives me a bad reaction. You know, I had migraines since I was 7 for decades, people being like, get Botox, get
Uh-huh.
Botox. And my friends have had it and like, oh, it's so great. It helps you. I'm like, I would be that one person that like would have the eye permanently down. Like my body is just, I've never been that um fortunate so that these things work. So I've always erred on the side of caution. So I take medication. Fortunately, I don't, there's no medication that I'm have like H1 and H2 blockers, which are over the counter, and
Hmm.
some supplements to help with like lymphatic support and Q-Tear, I can never say it, but that. So very basic supplements that I take. And then anything other than, because, you know, the weird thing is I have all these stuff, but like my labs and stuff are good. So my blood work's good. I don't have diabetes. I don't have insulin resistance. I don't have like, I don't need blood pressure medication. And you think that I would because I have all of these things and my BMI is high. So but that's the anomaly with these certain other diseases is that fortunately I don't have everything, but what I do have is manageable somewhere else. But I always find that there is a place for both
Mhm.
because if and what helps you. And that's really what I go through. If it supports your body enough to get you to do what you need and want to do in life, do it. If it supports you in a way that starts to make other things not work as well or diminishes your quality of life, then find alternatives.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my philosophy on that. What do you know?
Yeah. No, that's a great perspective because you hear it from both sides, but I love that depending on what it is and what makes you feel better at the end of the day. I know I do have a friend who has a lot of chronic pain and cannabis does help her. She doesn't like smoking it, but she likes like the drinking of it helps her with pain and inflammation. So I was just curious. I know cannabis is more of a thing that is being more talked about and how it's able to help people through some of these things. So.
Yeah, my friends that do it and have nurses that prescribe it and stuff think it's like the best sort of bridge between both medicine and natural things because it can be prescribed in certain dosages. I just can't personally talk to it because I've never been offered it or it's never been like a thing where it's like, oh, I should seek it out. I think I just have all these other things.
Definitely. I would
I
love to
have a
have
long
you.
list, Heather, of stuff to get through.
I want to have you on after your surgeries. I'd be curious to hear how the surgeries have changed this because I think everyone now wants to know, and I definitely would love to have you on for that. Tell everyone a little bit about your podcast, what it's about, where they can
Okay.
find you, because I know that's a lot of the work that you're doing right now too.
So I have a podcast called Dear Body, I'm Listening. And what I go over is all of these different things of the struggles to have a chronic illness, especially an invisible illness where there's a lot of grief and sadness. My background is a psychotherapist with dance movement therapy, and I have like my thesis and all my work was with trauma that's transitioned over the years. To coaching and things in relationships, but also Pilates and movement are a big thing. So I definitely have a take on how people should be moving, and it's not like Instagram Pilates. It's a more traditional Joseph Pilates, how I was trained. But that if you have a chronic illness, really taking it slow, rest, not our traditional way. Again, it's a whole nother blueprint you need when you have chronic illness to heal yourself. And it doesn't fit in line with what is currently out there in mainstream that's really accessible. So that's really my whole thing, is to try to get knowledge and awareness, because I know if I was diagnosed with lipedema when I was 15, psychologically and emotionally, I would have such a better relationship with my body. And I would have been able to like understand myself more and know what I need from my doctors. I'd have more education of what I actually needed, other than going in and thinking that they were going to help me. I could ask questions, because sometimes in life you just have to say the right key phrases, and then you get, whatever you want in life. So you can find me there at my podcast. It's in all the little like Apple, all the places. My website is donnapiper.com, and I'm not great at Instagram, but that's where I hang out. So social media is not my thing, but I do like to play around with it. And that is at the Donna Piper. And then my journey with just the lipedema surgeries, and I would love to come on again, is at lipedema_Donna.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything we didn't talk about, or anything that you want to leave with the listeners with today?
Just really listen to yourself. Like, more about your body and health. And if you really think that the answers that you're getting from your providers is not in alignment with what continue to dig. It may take a while, like it did for me, but you will kind of be led down the path a little bit. So don't give up. It is frustrating. It's inexcusable what they do. So I'm not debating any of that. But right now you have to work with the system you have. So other than saying the big F you to everything, figure out a way where you might say that initially, but then go back. Figure out the ways to what you need to say in order to get the help that you deserve. And so it's difficult, but don't give up.
Such a great reminder. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for telling your story. I wish you nothing but the best. And I definitely would love to have you on, because I think I'm interested to see, obviously this is like still a new thing, but like how the outcome helps your life. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. I'd love to.